greater good for greater number is okay, but when I talk about efficiency of a firm, of a company, so maximizing profits or with minimum inputs, which are the sectors where India is concerned about? What are the sectors India is concerned? India is not ready to accept some sectors. But in economics, when I define, how do we define poverty? What is the basic way of looking at poverty? When I use the word poverty, what is poverty if I ask you? So which items will affect inflation more? Then you'll understand, okay, it is food items which are the main reason for inflation. Good afternoon. Okay. So today's discussion is how do we study economics? Okay, and how should your preparation be for the next 1 year in terms of dealing with this subject called economics? So first of all, how many of you are feel that economics is difficult? Okay, no, economics is okay. Okay, so you're from economics background, so obviously then. So, but one important observation is UPSC economics, especially general studies, is not difficult. Optional may be a little technical, but here in GS, there's nothing technical. There's no numbers. Okay, there are no much of graphs. It is quite easy. And moreover, if there is a prelims question in economics, probably if there are 20 questions, you can mark 16 to 17 right. Okay, if you are understanding the concepts. So our objective would be, what are we supposed to do and what should be our approach be like. Okay, so first of all, why study economics? Why should somebody study economics? So resources are limited and effective distribution of resources. So wants are unlimited and resources are limited, and therefore the resources have to be distributed efficiently. Fine. Why should a bureaucrat understand economics? The next question obviously comes up like, so we're studying economics for the exam. So why should bureaucrat have some idea about economics? What do you think is the logic? So you're thinking that government scheme should be made more efficient. Somebody saying that. Okay, but okay, so helps in taking decisions which are more efficient. Okay, so then we end up with asking like, what is efficiency then? What do you mean by efficiency?
Studying 8 hours a day and still not sure if it's working? You are not alone. Hard work is important. But in UPSC, effort without direction is burnout without results. This exam doesn't just reward effort, it rewards clarity, strategy, structure. Everything you need for UPSC success starts with the GS Foundation course at Vision IS Delhi. Full coverage from prelims to mains, CSAT and essay. PT 365 and Mains 365. Current affairs simplified. One-on-one mentorship to work on your weakness. Regular test and feedback to convert effort into result. Toppers like AIR 2 and AIR 3 didn't just work harder, they work smarter. With the right guidance from day one. Batches starting from 30th June at 8 am, 8 July at 11 am, 15th July at 8 am, 18th July at 5 pm, 22nd July at 11 am, 25 July at 2 pm, 30 July at 8 am at Karol Bagh, and 23rd June at 5 pm, 10 July at 8 am, and 29 July at 6 pm at GTB Nagar. To know more or register, visit our website. Do you think you know UPSC prelims? It's time to prove it. The UPSC prelims isn't just a test of memory, it's a test of strategy, instinct, and pattern recognition. And every topper knows the secret weapon is the PYQs. Now, it's your turn to unlock that edge. Vision Eyes presents masterclasses on UPSC prelims PYQs starting from 25th June at 2 p.m. Available both offline and online, this dedicated course in 20 days covers 13 years of PYQs with one mission: your selection. This isn't just revision, it's a tactical upgrade. Here's what you'll master: topic-wise PYQ analysis, polity, economy, history, science and technology, and more. Elimination and logical guessing techniques, difficulty and source mapping, nature-based tagging, fundamental, applied, current-based. Smart revision strategy plus personalized mentoring. What makes this different? You won't just study questions, you'll deconstruct them. You'll learn to read patterns, anticipate traps, and eliminate options like a pro. Register now on our website or call us on the given numbers.
Is it sustainable? Efficiency, does it look into sustainability of resources? What does efficiency mean? Greater good for greater number is okay, but when I talk about efficiency of a firm, of a company, so maximizing profits or with minimum inputs, I want maximum output. That is what is efficiency. So if you're working for a government organization, or let's say you're working for as a bureaucrat and you're working for some Microsoft or Google, what is the difference between allocation of resources? What do you think would be the main difference? So you understand economics, you're working for a private firm. You understand economics, you're working for government. Is there any difference between your functioning? What is the difference? So in private, you're only talking about profit. Okay. What about government? Government will work for profits? More welfare. So government should have a combination of both. So, okay, fine. So when we talk about government policy making, it's not just about efficiency. Efficiency means what? With minimum inputs, I have to generate maximum output. For example, if you're constructing a dam, you want to construct high quality dam or the best dam at least possible cost. This is what is efficiency. But at the same time, when we work for government, there is something like effectiveness. What is effectiveness? Because of construction of this dam, how many hectares of land are going to be irrigated? That means the intended outcome of this effort. Now comes another important aspect. Out of 1 lakh hectares which are being irrigated because of this dam, 1 lakh, let's say 1 lakh hectares are irrigated, how many hectares belong to poor? This is called as equity. So when equity is not equality. Equity is treating equals equally and unequals unequally. So bureaucrat basically has to side with the poor and not with the rich in general. But that means when I talk about allocation of resources, as a bureaucrat, I not only focus on efficiency, but I also have to focus on effectiveness. I also have to think of equity. That is, I have to allocate resources to priority areas, underdeveloped areas, so where there is a higher scope of welfare. So I have to balance efficiency along with equity. So this is a very basic difference. But suppose, for example, let's say there was also one case study that was asked in ethics paper, of course, not in economics. Suppose you are basically a CEO of a private firm. It's a pharmaceutical company, private firm, pharma company. And your firm is basically making drugs for animals related issues, for basically veterinary and animal. Suddenly, during this research that was going on, you found out that there is a rare drug which can be manufactured, which will solve the problem of a deadly disease in a small tribal hamlet. And these tribals do not have paying capacity. They can't pay for the drug. You have to spend 100 crores to make this animal drug into a human drug, and it is suitable to solve that problem. or the disease in the tribal hamlet. Now you are the CEO of this pharma company. How do you operate? What do you do? Are you able to get this? But the same thing, if it is a government company and you are the district collector, you got to know that this is there. Your approach is going to be completely different. So as a private CEO, I can't say I'll put everything from my pocket, all the 100 crores, and produce this drug which will solve the problem of the tribal hamlet. That can't be your approach. Why? Because only profit is not going, only profit, first comes profit, and then you will think of other things. There's a difference. So probably if a private firm wants to do it, it might get into some collaboration with NGO, or it will get into collaboration with government, but the funds are raised from there. If you yourself are spending 50 crores or 100 crores from your pocket, then everybody should be knowing. You will be publicizing it to such an extent that everybody will be knowing that your company is into welfare, and therefore other product sales should increase. So ultimately, you're talking about profit. Are you able to get this? Okay, but in a different context, you're publicizing that you have done welfare so that the sales of your company, your branding changes. So this is how. But if you are a district collector and you identify that there's a government company where this tribal problem can be solved, your approach is completely different, isn't it? So why? Because that point of time, handling the problem becomes more important. And here you're not thinking about profit first, you're thinking about welfare. Got the point right? So bureaucrat has to know to balance both efficiency as well as effectiveness plus equity, all three together. Is that okay? After independence, when we came up with our first 5-year plans, 5-year plan, economic planning, we call it as. So why planning? Why did we plan? Because the resources are limited. And in these limited resources have to be allocated not only efficiently, but also effectively. And also focus on priority areas, underdeveloped areas, rural areas, etc. So that welfare also happens simultaneously. Are you able to get this? So that is the reason. So now I think it is clear, right? Now the question comes up, is UPSC economics difficult for general studies? Definitely not. You have to believe. So if you think that the same graphs and the same kind of complex theories we learn in the regular economics. Why? Because UPSC is basically application based exam. So most of the questions, 99% of the questions are application, and it is so you should be able to interlink things from whatever you see outside. That is very important. For example, if you're reading about Trump tariffs, I don't know how many of you know about Trump is coming up with some tariffs, duties. Okay. So, and India is trying to sign a trade deal with US. Trade deal. Okay. What are the issues or critical things that we are looking into when we are going to sign? So why is this deal didn't happen still? It's a mini trade deal we are talking about. And we have not still concluded the deal because there are some issues which are still not concluded. What would have been these issues? Like, what are these issues? That's okay. But which are the sectors where India is concerned about? What are the sectors India is concerned? India is not ready to accept some sectors. So to open up some sectors, India is not ready to open some sectors for US products. Okay, agriculture. Why? Because agriculture is something related to farmers, and 46% of the population is directly dependent on agriculture. 60% of population indirectly is dependent on agriculture. Number one. Number two, agriculture is not only an economic item, it is also related to politics. So you might lose elections also. It's a critical aspect. Are you able to get this? Similarly, when I look at India is also negotiating with respect to labor intensive sectors. What do you mean by labor intensive? Where more labor is required than machines. For example, footwear, textiles. Okay, India is asking US to reduce their tariff with respect to labor intensive sectors of India. We are exporting footwear, we are exporting textiles. Why? More jobs will get created. Why should more jobs? Because India, the biggest problem right now is unemployment. So you have to understand what is happening around you and link it to the syllabus. Is that okay? Understood? Right? Then another important aspect is they are also talking about automobile. India also, see, we are not selling most of our cars in US, but automobile components are also there. So India is negotiating on this with US. So this is what we should understand. That means practical application. So when I look at problems of unemployment, or when I understand some words, like for example, inflation, unemployment, etc. So when we look at it, so economics can be understood easily when I know these economic words. Is that clear? Okay, so at the end of your macroeconomic textbook, NCRT, there are more than 250 words, 200 to 250. So for example, one word is inflation. So if you go and see today's newspaper, you will find that in what is inflation, anybody? Rate of increase in prices. Rate of increase in prices. So if you would have opened today's newspaper, you will find that inflation rate is in India's case, inflation is under control. 2.6, 2 point, very decent inflation growth. So inflation is not high. This is what you will understand. Okay, so now then comes, if there is this word called inflation, is there any opposite of inflation? Okay, are you able to get this? So understanding words becomes more critical to understand the subject. So directly you get into the subject, then probably confusion will be higher. But if I understand few words, when I refer to this word unemployment, everybody knows what is unemployment. So how do you measure unemployment? Is unemployment measured over the total population of the country? Is it the workforce? See, basically when I look at unemployment, how do we define unemployment, let's say? Suppose, can I put students under unemployed category like you? No. Why? Unemployment is always talking about like those who are looking for work but not able to find work. For example, 15 to 59 years who are looking for work but not able to find work. So when we look at unemployment, it should only be taking into consideration about those who are looking for work. This is a basic understanding. That means I will not take the whole population. If I take the whole population, there will be people above 59, 60, and there will be children below 15. And there are people who stopped looking for work, maybe because of multiple reasons, like students are preparing for better things in life, or maybe because of the patriarchal mindset, women stopped looking for work, frustrated that they will not get a job, and they stopped looking for work. Are you able to get this? So when I look at unemployment problem, so when I say unemployment problem is, let's say, 3.3%, is it giving the whole picture? Obviously, no, it is giving only a partial picture. Many would have stopped looking for work, but unemployment will always talk about what? You're always measuring unemployment with respect to those who are looking for work but no work. This is the concept. Got the point, right? So looking around us, like today, if you open the newspaper or you're looking into the news, you'll find barriers, trade barriers, inflation, unemployment. These are all the words which are there. GDP. Okay, in Hindu today there was a discussion about investment, consumption. Okay, so we can't learn all the words in one day, but definitely before starting the core syllabus, it is always better to understand the words and then get into the syllabus. Is that okay? Understood? Now, this is a brief bifurcation as to how many questions are being asked in prelims. They are almost like 14 to 19 questions on an average in prelims, objective questions. Okay. So the accuracy rate should be around 75 to 80%. That means your 10 questions are there in economics. I should see to that I'll get 8 right out of 10. And it is more like maths, conceptual. So there is a possibility of getting 8 out of 10 right. Is that okay? So unlike other subjects, there's higher probability that you get 8 out of 10 questions right. Okay. So here, in prelims, one is in prelims, economics has a huge weightage, almost like 18 to 19 questions keep coming. Okay. And then in mains, you have the GS3. Okay. In GS3, almost like 50% of the paper is economics plus agriculture. Okay. So there again, this is about mains basically. Okay, so one is prelims, very important. Two, mains. In mains, basically one is your GS3. Then you will use economics also. You can use economics in essay. So nowadays essays are basically philosophical essays. So earlier there used to be economic based essays also. For example, earlier there was one essay, poverty anywhere is threat to prosperity everywhere. Poverty anywhere is threat to prosperity everywhere. This was the essay topic. Of course, poverty is not just an economic problem. It is also a social problem. Unemployment also is not just an economic problem. It's a social problem. Are you able to get this? So, but in economics, when I define, how do we define poverty? What is the basic way of looking at poverty? When I use the word poverty, what is poverty if I ask you? How do you define it? People do not have access to basic resources. Okay. So, you'll put it as, okay, in general. So, deprivation of basic requirements for leading a dignified life. So, dignified life as defined as part of Article 21 of the Constitution. Right to life also talks about right to dignified life. But we basically talk about food calorie primarily. When initially India was more focused on food calorie method. Food means you're saying suppose somebody is getting less than 2,400 calories per day in rural areas, and somebody is getting less than 2,100 calories per day in urban areas. Of course, this is a very narrow way of defining poverty. Narrow. That means you're just saying you're defining poverty based on calorie. So this is rural because more rural areas it is a little more. Why? Because there's more physical activity. But otherwise, this is a very narrow method of defining poverty. Why? Because poverty also has to deal with lack of access to health, lack of access to education, issues related to sanitation, even lack of access to banking facilities. Today, we are talking about digital poverty. So, during COVID, hardly one third of kids were able to afford for online education due to lack of resources. That is maybe a mobile phone or an internet connection. So, this is called as digital poverty, energy poverty, okay, gender disparity. So, many things talk. So, what was the question? The essay was like poverty anywhere is threat to prosperity everywhere. What is this poverty anywhere is threat to prosperity everywhere? Is there any thought that is coming to your mind? Okay, poverty leads to crime. Agreed. Okay, crime leads to okay. So more he says more poverty, more drugs on street. Okay, so more poverty, more the scope for crime. Suppose if I look at poverty from different perspectives. Suppose today, if I'm stuck in poverty, I don't have a square meal to eat. Okay, I don't have a square meal to eat, and somebody is coming and telling me sustainable development. Out of this word sustainable development, what is sustainable development? So you're satisfying the present needs without compromising on future generations. Okay, so that is basically you you have to, when we are growing at a faster pace, you're polluting the environment also. Okay, so you want to keep your growth more sustainable. So, but if you go and tell a poor man, don't use chula, but before doing that, you have to give him gas cylinder. You have to give the rural mother gas cylinder and then tell her not to use chula. Chula is going to pollute my environment. Are you able to get this? So there is a direct link between sustainable development and poverty, and that is the reason our first sustainable development goal 1, SDG 1, is about eliminating poverty. Are you able to get this? Now the question is, poverty anywhere is threat to prosperity means if there is poverty today, there is more usage of fossil fuel. More usage of fossil fuel means prosperity of future generations is also affected. That means poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere, including the future generations. Are you able to get this? Similarly, Northwest Frontier Province, Afghan-Pakistan border, there is a lot of poverty. Okay, so there is poverty and therefore they were motivated. If there is a poverty in those regions, it can be a threat to prosperity of a developed country like US also. Usama, twin blasts in US. So there is a higher scope for motivating people for terrorism So poverty in Northwest Frontier Province can lead to twin blasts in US. Are you able to get this? So poverty anywhere is threat to prosperity everywhere. So when I'm looking at essay, of course, here I'm not looking at a um, I'm not looking at only from an economic perspective. Rather, I'm looking from a wider perspective. But there are some philosophical essays. For example, history is a series of victories won by scientific man over romantic man. Okay, now this is not an economics essay, but can I use economics if my words are clear, even in essay? So you can use economics even in an essay. So for example, let's say today I can say it's a victory of capitalism over socialism, or I can say it's a victory of Adam Smith. Adam Smith is a thinker who propounds capitalism, and then Karl Marx. Okay, so today I can say it's a victory of capitalism over communism or socialism. Can I say that? How do you say that? Because wherever I go, you find capitalism. Simple logic. You don't find other things. Why is it that capitalism was so successful? So whenever you listen to this word capitalism, what is that comes to your mind? When you listen to the word capitalism, what is that comes to your mind? Okay, one is private, then profit motive. Is profit bad? No. Okay. Then what else will come to your mind? In capitalistic societies, who will tell you how much to produce, at what price you will sell? Who will tell you? It is all driven by what? Market. What is a market? Market is a place where buyers and sellers meet. Is that okay? Why is capitalism so successful? Why capitalism survived? For example, let's say I give 1 acre of land to all of you and ask you to produce. And after you have produced, I have taken whatever you have produced from you and distributed among all of you based on your needs. What is this? This is called as communism. Now, tomorrow, this girl may say, I am more efficient, I am more talented, but at the same time, I will not produce more using my technology or whatever. Because, anyhow, the state is taking away and distributing based on our need. So, efficiency is going to decrease. Okay, that means capitalism, one aspect is efficiency. Is that clear? So why? Because if I'm telling you, if you're more talented, if you produce more, you keep the profit with you. Then probably you'll use your head to produce more, use all the modern technology possible and produce more. Second is capitalism is very close to human innate nature. Humans are inherently selfish. And capitalism is very close to our nature. It's very difficult to be altruistic. That is the reason all religions want to tell you, like, think about others, because innately you don't think about others. That is the reason every religion tells you, no, think about others first and then put your interest later. Okay, there's no religion which tells you, like, think about yourself first. Why? Because it knows that humans inherently they think about themselves, and because of that selfish attitude only, they are able to dominate the planet today. We have overcome all the animals who are at the top of the food chain. Okay, so this is possible because of a selfish attitude only. Because of that, we were able to dominate the planet today. So nobody needs to teach you selfishness because it is inherently ingrained in our DNA. And capitalism also propounds selfishness, very clear. It's very close to our innate nature. This is what Adam Smith also talks about. Are you able to get this? Now, how do I look at this? See, for any firm to exist, you require what? 4 factors of production. Without these 4 factors, you will not have any firm existing. What are the 4 factors for any firm? For example, Vision IAS or maybe Maruti, any firm. You require land, you require labor, you require capital, and you require an entrepreneur, businessman who brings everything together: land, labor, capital. Okay. Why is the land given for doing business? Is it given for charity? No. so that you generate rent. Why is the labor coming and working? Wages. Why is the capital deployed? Why somebody giving you capital is because he receives interest. And why is the entrepreneur taking all this risk is because he gets profit. Simple logic. So every entity is working for their own benefit. Got the point right? Okay, so the labor is working. So many a times there is this discussion that, for example, there was this Cave Coffee Day. Heard of Cave Coffee Day? So Cave Coffee Day, the owner committed suicide in the recent past. Okay, so then there was one chief secretary was heading this case, like what to revive the company. Now, then I happened to meet him. I asked him what was the reason behind he committing suicide. Of course, one is tax related issues or something, whatever it is. But one other reason he told me is there were 20,000 employees in this company, especially women, who were not fired even when the business was not doing well. You did not retrench the labor, push the labor out, even when the company is not doing well. What will happen? Your debt will accumulate. Business has to be run like a business. Are able to get this? So here, basically, an aspect of welfare, if you bring it, then probably situations might become difficult. What the point? So generally, labor keeps saying, during COVID, why can't somebody pay us salaries? Because the capitalist might think, why should I? Got the point, right? So this conflict is always there. Why everybody works towards their own, but at the same time, an organization stands and overall growth of the economy happens. So when I look at capitalism, who is a scientific man? Who is a scientific man? How do you define scientific man? Somebody who uses logic or rationality in taking decisions. He will not take random decisions. Who is a romantic man? Somebody who is more emotional. Okay, so Karl Marx is more close to. Adam Smith is more close to. It's a victory of capitalism over socialism, or it's a victory of Adam Smith over Karl Marx today. Are you able to get this? Okay, so that means even in a philosophical essay, I can think whether it is that essay which we were talking about, poverty anywhere is threat to prosperity everywhere, or whether it is essays like this. But first thing is I should know the words properly. Then I can link it in any essay possible. So another benefit of learning economics is, of course, in the general studies 3, you have very clearly defined syllabus where 50% of the paper is your economics and agriculture. At the same time, you will also be able to get some good scores in essay. And in the interview, there will be questions on government policies and current economics. Current economics is what is happening. For example, why is it that RBI has reduced the interest rates recently? So RBI has reduced some rates recently. Okay, so what is the logic behind doing that? Or why in the recent budget that Nirmala Sitharaman madam has reduced the tax rates? Tax rates have been reduced. What do you think is the reason? Why madam has reduced tax rates? Why purchasing power should increase? Okay, so basically consumption. Which consumption? Domestic consumption should increase. When you have people like Trump outside, and when there is war like Israel war was going on, Ukraine war is going on, Russia, and when there's global instability, our exports will not be efficient. You can't produce and export to other countries much. So obviously you have to generate demand from within the country. That means within the country, if you have to generate demand, people should have higher paying capacity. If people should have higher paying capacity, two things should happen. One, I should be getting loans easily from the bank. Why? Because today demand is not only because of your income, demand is also because of loan. We consume based on credit. Okay. Second is the tax rate should be lower so that you will pay less to the government. You will have more cash in your pocket. Then you can buy more products, create more demand. Are you able to get this? This is the whole logic. So government would have thought on all these lines, obviously. So when they decided 1 lakh crores should be injected into the economy by reducing the tax rates. People should have more cash. Let's say people have extra 1 lakh crores. So that let them spend more. Is that okay? So this is how it is. Okay, so now that means every policy that they are pushing in obviously has some logic. You have to understand the logic. Rather than stopping at why madam has reduced tax rates. You will not stop there. Okay. Or today's newspaper says the private player is not investing. Not investing. Not investing in spite of loan rates being reduced. That means loans are available for the corporates and tax rates have been reduced. And still the private player is not investing. This is there's a big article in Hindu. Now that means there is a word there for you that is called as investment. So then you have to dig deeper using ChatGPT. What is investment? Is investment different from consumption? Get this? Is there any difference between investment? This is all learning about words. What is investment, anybody? How do you, for a layman, what is investment? For somebody who does not know anything, how do you define investment? So it is like investment is something that gives you returns in the future. That is a general. So today I'm investing means I'm expecting return in the future. That is what is investment. But for an economist, investment is little different. For an economist, investment is something that leads to capital formation. It's a word. Okay, so what is this capital formation? Capital formation is nothing but accumulation of capital goods in an economy. Accumulation of capital goods in an economy. What is, see, that means whenever banks are giving loans, the corporates take these loans and they buy what? Machines. Let's say Vision IS is taking a loan. Now Vision IS decided to buy this machine. Maruti is taking a loan. Maruti is buying new machines to produce cars. Okay, so what are these machines? These machines are capital goods. Are you able to get this? Okay, now the question comes up, why is the corporate not investing? That means he's not setting up new businesses or is not buying new machines. In spite of getting easy loans, bank loans have become cheaper. In spite of government giving you tax concessions, why is the corporate not buying these machines or expanding businesses? So that is the article. What do you think would be the logic? They feel that the consumption is still not recovering as expected. That means, when will I invest, buy machines and produce more? When I see that there is demand, there is consumption increasing. But if there is no confidence that people will buy my products, or if consumption is not going to increase, so therefore, I will not take the risk of investment. When will you invest? When you believe that that investment will yield returns at a later date. Why should I add on machines and produce more when I'm expecting that the demand will not pick up after 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? So what they say is, first that consumption should increase and only then probably investment might come in. Or in spite of reducing all this interest rates and taxes, the corporates are not able to see a decent revival of consumption or demand in the future. Is that okay? So that means I will individual. It's not a class where you learn words, but you should understand that what is investment, what is capital good, what is demand. What is demand? How do you define demand? No, I'm asking, how do you define this word demand? Okay. That's okay. But first of all, the question is, you said I want this notes, I want this material, okay, or let's say you want to buy a car, you want to buy a motorcycle, okay. So demand can increase for coaching, let's say when the seats are more in UPSC, okay, simple, okay. So there can be higher demand for two wheelers or cars when people's paying capacity is higher. So demand is not only about your willingness to buy, but also your ability to pay. Simple. You have the willingness to buy something, but you don't have. Suppose you say, I want a Lamborghini or I want an expensive car, but you're a salaried employee. There's no point. There is willingness only. You don't have the ability to pay. So demand will come because of these two. One is willingness to buy plus ability to pay. Okay. Is there any link between consumption and demand? If you consume more, there will be more demand, obviously. Simple. So during COVID, first wave, everybody was India, especially India, we were feeling that we are different from others. We were saying our genes are different. We are not like the Europeans. Nothing will happen to us. We had that confidence. First wave. Okay, we said we are not like Italians. We are different. But second wave, we understood that we are like everybody. We'll also get affected. Second wave created panic. So people stopped consumption. People started saving. Why save? Because tomorrow, if there is some problem, I need to, not about inflation only. Tomorrow I may get admitted in hospital. I have to save. And if you are admitted in private hospital, either you die, though you come out also, you're almost dead because of the bills. So obviously what they will decide, better would be, I will save, I will not consume. So demand would have been high or low during COVID? Demand. No demand for other items except hospitals. So there's no demand in the market during COVID because people are not consuming, but rather people are saving. That means everybody starts saving also. The economy will not run. Are you able to get this? Is that okay? Understood? So this is how you have to look for words, and this is how you have to also check some examples from real life. Real life means during COVID, what is the scenario? Currently, how is the economy? Rather than understanding the word, you have to put it from the perspective of what is happening around you right now. If you are reading inflation, you should first check, understood inflation, then what is the inflation right now? Why is inflation low? Then you'll get to know, it is because of the vegetable prices. Okay, so which items will affect inflation more? Then you'll understand, okay, it is food items which are the main reason for inflation. And since vegetable prices are decent now, that is the reason inflation is okay. Then comes, what are the factors that will affect inflation? Got the point, right? So what are the factors that will affect inflation? Maybe demand will okay, then raw material costs. Trump tariffs will also affect inflation. Global uncertainty is high, and therefore the investors or the corporates are not investing. They are not confident about so recently corporates have come up with their earnings reports. Every quarter they come up with. So performance is very bad. Companies like TCS, etc., their earnings are very bad. It shows corporates are not making profits. Got the point, right? By giving them loans, they will not invest. Clear? Okay. This is a brief understanding. So few things when we prepare for UPSC. First thing is understand the basic words. And second is breaking the myth is basically to see like this very complex and technical. That is not true. This is what you hear outside. Okay. Fear of numbers and graphs is not required because it is only application that they are asking. Third, is economics background required for general studies? There is no background required. Okay. Then interpreting news articles. Is it that every article that is coming in the news is important? Definitely not. Those articles which are linked to my syllabus, only these articles become important. So first thing is words and syllabus. Now bulky textbooks in the market. Now this is another myth that if I read 2 bulky textbooks, everything will be okay. This is wrong. See, generally when we read textbooks, every year the textbooks are becoming bulkier and bulkier. Same book becomes extra 1000 page, extra 500, extra 300. So generally these pages are added after the question has come. Suppose you take a culture book, Nitin Singhania. So there is this Sun Temple question that was asked. And then the student goes and sees, oh, 50 pages on Sun Temple. That means Sun Temple question has come from this book. But logically understanding it is Sun Temple papers were added after the question has come. And therefore, they keep on adding papers every year, the big book becomes bulky. So therefore, there's no point in reading bulky books. Of course, if you read one textbook, you have to do it perfectly. That's it. Is that clear? So one book, one textbook is more than sufficient, provided you use internet as much as possible. Is that okay? ChatGPT is there, AI tools are there. You can play with them. Is that okay? Right? Then, what should I do then? One is strictly stick to basics. If the basic is strong, then automatically if the foundation is strong, rest will be very easy. So what is foundation then? Understanding basic economic words first. Are you able to get this? What is demand? What is supply? What is the factors that will affect demand? What is appreciation of currency? What is depreciation of currency? What is growth? What is development? Are you able to get this? Well, what is inflation? What is deflation? Getting it? Okay, so when I know this, then and when I'm reading a particular chapter also, I can, suppose inflation is there. We say inflation is affected by government's budget. If the government is giving more tax concession also, that will also affect inflation. So there is a link between different chapters. So how do you understand the link? Provided I know the words. Is this clear? Okay, the second thing is linking concepts with, this is what I was talking about. What is happening around you? Economics is not in the books. It is outside. Okay, your thought process should be like, yes, if Trump is doing this, what is the benefit to India? What is the negative to India? If inflation has come down, what are the benefits right now in the economy? Is that okay? Then don't believe the market or veterans who complicate things. Wantedly, I've written this point. So veterans means somebody who's 5 years in market, and they tell you, aapse to nahi hoga. Very difficult. You have to do it yourself. You have to check the syllabus. You have to see whether things are complex, things are not complex. You can't believe anybody. Why? Because everybody's aptitude is different. Everybody's approach is different. Is that okay? So your confidence will be low. In the initial stages, generally in the market, they'll tell you, this is very difficult, you can't do it. And then you form a notion. And with fear, you start approaching. With fear, you approach something. So before the battle is fought, you are already lost. So that's a very important thing which you have to remember. Now, how do you get confidence? How do I decide what should I read, what should I do? The most important thing is PYQ, previous year questions. I have not written solving, I have written complete research on. There's a difference between research and solving a question. Okay, so what is research is, if you see a question, for example, there was a question. This is a previous year question, 24 or 23. It says, which of the following is part of foreign direct investment? This is the question. We're not solving the question. But this question has some options. For example, you find foreign currency convertible bond. Your research starts there. This is one area of research. What is a bond? What is a convertible bond? What are the bonds in news right now? Then comes, what is this foreign currency convertible bond? Okay, what is the benefit of these bonds? Who buys these bonds? Who regulates these FCCBs? This is how the questions keep coming. That means if I take a topic, I do in and out research with respect. I go deeper into the topic. Before 2017, the questions are superficial. What is the meaning of superficial? I know something about everything. Just like that. I'll be able to identify. Now it is not like that. It is you are going deeper into the topic because you have availability of material, availability of ChatGPT. So UPSC also will definitely expect you to think deeper. Got the point? Earlier you want something, you have to go to the library and search. Now it is not like that. Okay, that is the reason. So, or FII with certain conditions. Now then comes, what is this FII? How is it different from FDI? Okay, so what do these FIs do exactly? Can they buy shares? Can they buy bonds? So when you dig deeper, this is how. Then global depository receipts, another word has come up. Then comes up, what is a depository receipt? Okay, so research means taking each and every area and digging deeper into it. This is what you should do when you're doing previous year questions. You may know the answer. That's not important. Knowing the answer is okay. You might eliminate and mark the answer, good. But the thing is, have I done proper research of PYQs? Then once UPSC civil services PYQs are done, then you have to do CDS, CAPF. These are also conducted by UPSC. So you have to do the research on them. So for example, another question here. Which of the following are considered above are considered as intangible investment? This is what investment should give me some return. What is tangible? Something that I can feel and touch. What is intangible? Something I cannot feel and touch. This is what was the question. Is it okay? So then comes, what is inventory? Okay, so that word called inventory. Okay, so are you able to get this? Using logic also sometimes you can mark the answers. So for example, brand of a company, can I feel it and touch it? No, no. But will it yield return for me? Yes. Is that okay? And similarly, mailing list of clients, that also you can't feel and touch. Mailing list of clients, it will give you returns, obviously. You have the database basically. Okay, but inventory is something that is there in the stock. Okay, so this is something like inventory has to be eliminated from the options because it's tangible. Tangible. For example, Vision IAS inventory may have your magazines and materials which are given to the students. Maruti has inventory. It can be cars. Inventory can be the finished goods. Inventory can be semi-finished goods. Inventory can be raw materials. But whether it is raw material, whether it is finished good, whether it is semi-finished good, you can feel and touch. Is that okay? Understood? So that is what I mean by complete research on. Okay. Then comes make your own handwritten notes. Of course, it need not be handwritten. You can do it using your laptop also. Nowadays, you need not do it handwritten, but definitely you should have your own notes. Class notes is there, or maybe your some notes outside, and then you also have to have your own handwritten notes. Is this clear? Understood till here? Now, breaking down the syllabus. This is main syllabus of UPSC. UPSC clearly defines the main syllabus. UPSC has not defined prelims syllabus clearly, but the main syllabus is clearly defined. So if you see this main syllabus, it is mentioned clearly that I'll be asking questions from here. So there were questions like scope and significance of food processing, PDS. So direct questions from the syllabus. So in fact, for every line mentioned in the syllabus, I need to prepare a 10-pointer. 10-pointer. Giving every line to ChatGPT. Suppose there's a scope and significance of food processing. Give that to ChatGPT. What is the scope of food processing industry in India? Getting it? Okay, so for every line mentioned in the syllabus, I need 10 to 15 points. And anything related to this is coming in the current affair, I'll be able to focus more on those articles in the newspaper because it is directly linked to the syllabus. Something is coming in the newspaper which is not linked to the syllabus, I'll not spend much time. Is that okay? Understood? Okay. But when it comes to prelims, UPSC will not define prelims syllabus specifically, but these topics are basically based on analysis of pre-YQs. So from everything, capital markets to banking to national income, everything is asked. This is how did I define these topics? Are they mentioned in the syllabus? No. I have written these topics based on the analysis of pre-IQ. But for mains, it is not like that. It is clearly defined. Is that okay? Understood? Now, this is, I've put minimalist approach for books. When I say minimalist approach for books, I will keep my resources minimum and I will revise them multiple number of times. This is the logic. Every teacher would have told you this. Okay, so because anyhow I have the internet with me, I have my own notes with me, so I'll only buy one standard textbook probably, and I will revise that standard textbook. So here I have put something like basic reading. Basic reading books are those which are outside UPSC. These are not written for the exam. But somebody who feels that I don't know anything, I can't even understand what is money, what is inflation. Okay, so they have to start reading this book called So You Want to Know About Economics. Okay, so it's a very, very basic, not for everybody. You might feel, what is this book? Maybe even a fourth standard boy or a girl will understand that book, and that is a very small book. So, but if you feel that I don't know anything about what is black money, I don't know. Then I'll not directly open my NCERT straight. I'll read this book. Maybe in one day you'll finish the book and you'll understand what are the words. Is that clear? Okay, then you have another basic reading here, 75 Years of Indian Economy. This is written by Sanjay Baru. This we generally read for interview. Okay, but this has the details related to how Indian economy has evolved from 1947 till date. From 1947 till date, how Indian economy has evolved over a period of time. So very important book. It will help you to write good introductions in the exam, even for some essays also. And it's also a very thin book. These are general readings. This is not for everybody. But yes, 75 Years of Indian Economy, everybody can read. Is that okay? Understood? Then the first book, definitely which everybody has to read, is your NCERT 11th Standard, Indian Economic Development. This is an NCERT. This is compulsory, non-negotiable. NCERTs, two NCERTs are non-negotiable. You have to read. This is, you have some option, but here there's no choice. Is that okay? And then two, you have the macroeconomics textbook, NCERT. So that macro plus Indian economic development, these two books are compulsory. Is that okay? So, but you will not start with macro. If you are basics, you want to know the basics, this is better. And then go to Indian economic development and then followed by macro. Is that clear? Yes. Then when it comes to mains, your primary research content would be vision material, anyhow is there. Vision releases its value addition material. So that's also there. And your primary content should be internet. You'll be using ChatGPT and government resources. That is what is more important. And vision value addition material. Is that clear? Okay, so you have to make notes on the topics listed in the main syllabus. That's very important. Is that okay? Understood? Okay. So now when it comes to economics, current affairs is a very important area. Now what to do with current affairs? One is you select one newspaper, whether it is Indian Express or Hindu. Any newspaper is okay. Okay, so one newspaper. Now some students ask, sir, is newspaper reading compulsory? Yes, it is compulsory. At least 45 minutes you have to spend on reading a newspaper. Though you read a magazine, still you have to read a newspaper. Magazine should be like revision. Is that okay? Then economic survey and budget. Any of Vision releases survey, synopsis and budget. If you want to read the whole document, you can read, or you can read the synopsis. But these are compulsory. And then we have a monthly magazine also, current affairs. But if you don't have time to read the monthly magazines, then we have PT. PT 365, Mains 365. Is that okay? So for current affairs, these are the three sources. Very clear. But newspaper is compulsory. Okay. So making notes is a separate thing altogether. So making notes, you will do it after obviously having some knowledge. Without knowledge, you can't make notes. But the notes should be very crisp. It should not be more than 150 pages, so that you can revise it multiple number of times. That is what are crisp notes. And second is separate fact sheet has to be prepared. When I say fact sheet, all the data at one place. Data related to what? Data related to the main syllabus. Then preparing pointers with respect to the main syllabus and focusing on value addition. So when I use the word value addition, see, value addition is like the icing on the cake. You want to get more, half mark more, 1 mark more.
The moment to test yourself before UPSC does is here. Introducing Abhyas Mains 2025 by Vision IS, conducted simultaneously in 35 plus cities across India. Abhyas lets you experience the real UPSC mains environment wherever you are. If you are writing Mains 2025, this is your opportunity to experience the exam hall atmosphere in advance, assess your readiness under real conditions, identify and bridge critical gaps in your preparation. Why choose Abhyas Mains 2025? All India percentile to benchmark your performance, expert evaluation with actionable feedback, post-test discussions to enhance your approach, closely aligned with UPSC's pattern and difficulty level, comprehensive coverage of all mains components, GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4, essay, optional papers 1 and 2, available in English and Hindi. Test schedule: 26th July, GS paper 1 and 2, 27th July, GS paper 3 and 4, 2nd August, essay, 3rd August, optional paper 1 and 2. Toppers have trusted Abhyas year after year to sharpen their writing, refine their strategies and gain the confidence to excel, inspiring thousands of aspirants to follow their path to top ranks. Now it's your turn to rise to the challenge. Don't just prepare, rehearse, improve and excel with Abhyas Mains 2025. Take this decisive step towards your UPSC success. To know more or register, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
Struggling to find the right guidance amid UPSC's vast syllabus? Lakshya Integrated Mentoring Program 2026 is your complete solution offering personalized one-on-one mentorship, complete syllabus coverage including GS, CSAT, essay, ethics and current affairs, plus expert interview guidance with mock interviews. Stay ahead with performance analytics for targeted improvement and daily current affairs updates to keep you motivated and informed. Our phase-wise plan ensures steady progress. Integrated revision and practice phase. 2,600 plus MCQs, 25,000 plus Sandhan questions, and 500 plus subjective questions for a strong foundation. Mains exclusive phase. 120 plus subjective questions including ethics and 10 plus essay topics for mains clarity. Prelims intensive phase. 2,000 plus MCQs daily weekly, plus 25,000 plus Sandhan questions for prelims mastery. Mains intensive phase. 200 plus subjective questions to perfect your mains answers. Total daily questions, prelims MCQs, 30,000 plus. Mains questions, 800 plus. Test papers. Weekly Lakshya practice tests, prelims and mains, 80 plus. Full-length tests, 25 plus. All phases prelims, mains and interview preparation start from 2nd July. Hindi and English. Enroll now in Lakshya Integrated Mentoring Program 2026 and prepare smart for your UPSC success. PSC Mains is not just about writing answers. It's about writing impactfully with clarity, depth, and precision. And that calls for more than knowledge. It calls for mentorship. Presenting the Vision IS Mains Mentoring Program 2025. Starting from 15th July. a purpose-built initiative to guide serious aspirants through one of the most demanding phases of the civil services examination. This program is designed to help you evolve from just writing answers to writing answers that fetch marks. What does the Lakshya Mains mentoring program offer? Personalized mentoring, regular one-on-one sessions to fine-tune your strengths and overcome weaknesses. Structured daily and weekly targets to keep you consistent and exam-ready. Advanced answer writing sessions with model solutions and detailed evaluation. Essay mentoring and practice for developing impactful content and structure. Paper-wise strategic sessions including GS and essay. Feedback, review and continuous monitoring for real-time improvement. Whether you're stepping into mains for the first time or returning with renewed focus, this is the push that converts effort into excellence.
So how do I put some graphs? Everything has to be prepared. What are the graphs you're going to write in the exam? Is all prepared beforehand. Is that clear? Everything has to be prepared in detail beforehand. Suppose you're drawing pie charts or bar diagrams or block diagrams. Everything has to be prepared beforehand. This is what I mean by value addition. Is it important? Yes. For example, if you're writing 18 questions, you get half mark more. It's 9 questions, 9 marks. So 9 marks in all the papers. Just imagine 45 to 50 marks means it brings a huge difference whether you're IAS or something else. You're able to get this. So that is the reason value addition becomes important. At the end, you have to work on value addition. There's no doubt about it. Is that clear? Okay. When it comes to mains, how do I make a crisp notes? For few things, you will make flowcharts, and once you see the flowchart, everything should be clear. And so that you can revise it multiple number of times. It's not, see, everybody says hard work, but hard work is agreed. But more importantly, it is how intelligently you have made your notes, how intelligently you have revised, how intelligently you have avoided something like negative distractions, etc. So this is what it is. Somebody saying you can't do it, etc. All that. Okay, so these things are very important. This is a very straightforward question from the syllabus. What is, elaborate the scope and significance of food processing industry. Is that clear? Is that okay? Any doubts still here? No doubts? Okay. So, another important resource, we are almost there at the end. So, that is about using topper sheets. So, what do toppers do? Basically, topper would have, of course, what is the benefit of seeing topper sheets? So, topper may be first ranker, 100, 150. Don't bifurcate. Oh, he's a first ranker. Not like that. Okay, so it's all about hardly 5-10 marks. So, some toppers may be very good in writing. And some toppers, are writing style is very close to your writing style. This is what you should see. It's not about first or 150th rank. Like somebody who's got 100 rank, his writing style or her writing style is very close to your writing style. That means that will be useful for you. Then how is the topper writing the side headings? Able to get this? How are the block diagrams placed? Got it? How is the data presented in every point which they write? This is what you have to observe. What is that writing flair that has given them edge? See, it's not about knowledge. Knowledge everybody will have. But it is about their writing style or presentation and putting the points in the right format. These things have made them toppers. So these are some good skills which you have to start inculcating slowly. But when you compare, you will not be demotivated. The topper would have written this answer in their 4th attempt. You would have written this answer for the first time in your life. Never you have written answers. And you start comparing and get demotivated. That's not the case. You have to learn from the topper, rather not looking at the topper that is from heaven. I think you got this. Is that clear? Understood? So that is what you should be doing. So first start with the words. Then after the words are done, after you have, suppose if you're not taking any coaching or whatever it is, you have to open the macroeconomic textbook. At the end, there are words. Each word I will go to ChatGPT and check and first understand the words. Then I will start reading Indian economic development and then macroeconomic textbook. The order is very important. Okay, then go through the previous year questions and syllabus and then prepare your plan. This is how it is. Is that clear? So Vision also gives 4 textbooks for economics. Okay, so if I'm reading those 4, obviously I'll not read any textbook. But if I'm not reading Vision material, then one standard textbook. Do your research before selecting the textbook. But once you select the textbook, you'll not change it. Initially spend some time. But later on, this topper told you read this book, some topper told read that book. No, not like that. You've done your research and then select one textbook and zero down on one newspaper and keep revising things. Is that okay? Any other doubts you have with respect to preparation or what should be done? Any doubts you have? No doubts? Sequences first start with the words. Words. At the end of your macroeconomic textbook, NCERT, there are words. What are the words you find? Inflation, deflation, disinflation, stagflation, capital market, primary market, secondary market, GDP, GNP, like this. These are words. So there is Investopedia, like the Wikipedia in the internet. Okay, Investopedia. Go type the word. Only look into the first paragraph. Don't go deeper, because there will be some explanations which are not required for UPSC. So first try to understand what the word is. Get a hold of the words. Then read Indian Economic Development, 11th Standard NCERT. Then read your macroeconomic textbook or some class notes if it is there, class notes or macro. Is that okay? And then one standard textbook of your choice, whether it is Ramesh Singh or whether it is Sanjeev Verma, one textbook, only one. And before you start reading the textbook also, see the previous year questions and stick the syllabus on your table. Syllabus? Because you're reading newspaper, everything is important, start reading and wasting time. No. Syllabus should be very clear. Is that clear? Understood? So, that's it. No. The thing is, suppose let's say my class notes is around 350 or 330 pages. Okay, after reading it 2 times, you have to condense the class notes into 110 pages. No, you can see you will not make notes of NCERT separately. That's not done. See, NCERT you can underline. You need not make a notes out of every book you read, especially NCERTs, not required. So how do you make a notes then? One is your class notes, suppose is 350 page, you have condensed it to 120, 130. That is one notes, done. Second notes would be your own notes which you are making for the main syllabus. I'm not making notes for prelims. You're not making notes for prelims, you're only making notes for mains based on the topics mentioned in the syllabus. How do I make my notes? One is I'll download toppers notes. For example, Rishikesh Reddy is one topper I know is very close to me. So you take one student, notes, download it. It is available free. And see the way they have prepared. He has prepared notes on laptop. Okay, so what is the approach of the notes? Keep one as a reference. And then pick up topics in the syllabus and use your notes also. And make notes only for the topics mentioned in mains. So ultimately you are making how many notes? 2. You are condensing your class notes by using flow charts into 110 pages. You're not making a separate prelims notes. You're only making a mains notes. That's it. You're not making notes from NCERT separately. No. Is this clear? And pre-YQs, there is some publications, right? You have Vision material also. You have Arihant publications also. Every PYQ mains question has to be read. Though the answers in the market, what answers they have written with respect to some publication may not be 100% apt, but still all the PYQs have to be done, so that you'll get a fair idea as to understanding the examiner's mind So this is very important to understanding examiner's mind. So once you understand UPSC, then you will be whatever you're reading, you will know, yes, question will be framed like this. How do you get to know that? From understanding examiner's mind by breaking down previous year questions. Then you will get to know, okay, examiner is asking questions like this, so this is how I should prepare. So without direction, without analyzing these, if you put 15 hours effort every day also, the direction is wrong. Efficiency will be less. Is that okay? So first understand and then channelize the effort more productively so that the result will be faster. Random hitting will not give you result. No? It will take a lot of time. Yeah. That's all then.